Welcome, everyone, to the Nova Scotia Minister of Agriculture digital series. We've got a great lineup for you today, and we're going to focus on consumer trends in agriculture. You know, when you work in this food industry and this value chain, we have to be so responsive to what's happening with consumers because we know that every week people get a chance to vote at the cash register or now even on the website as to what they're going to buy and take home to their household. So we have to know what's going on with the trends, and we have to be able to predict as well, because many of you are making decisions far in advance of when the consumer makes that decision at the store to purchase a product, perhaps hopefully yours. So we definitely have to know what's going on with consumers and understand where things are going. And the reality that so many of us are facing is that so much has changed in the last 12 months. If you think back to what things looked like in early 2020 compared to what they look like today, it's very different. And we've got some great experts with us today who are going to share their expertise and really help you understand what they're seeing with regards to trends, and also help you understand where is it all going. And that's what's so important about this. So we really look forward to getting some great insights from them. My name is Peter Chapman, and I have a business based here in Nova Scotia called SKU Food, and I have the privilege of working with different producers and processors from across the country and helping them get their products on the shelf and into the shopping cart, whether it's a physical one or maybe a virtual one in today's environment. And I'm really excited to be here with you today and really learn from the experts that we have assembled here with us today. So to get us off to a great start, we're going to just enjoy a brief video from the Honorable Keith Caldwell, who's our Minister of Agriculture and also Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture here in Nova Scotia.
Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the Consumer Trends in Agriculture. As Minister of Agriculture, consumer trends are very important to me, and as farmers and processors, it's very important to you as well. If we know what the trends are and where they're going, it gives an opportunity to change the way we do business. And the better we can change with consumer trends, the better we are with our marketplace and the products we grow. We'll know there's a market for them, and indeed we may want to grow some new products that have different markets and markets we haven't explored before. I'm really excited about the panelists today. They bring some of the most knowledge that I've seen gathered in a long time, the people that have the expertise in this field. They can offer you solutions and ideas how you can move your business forward and indeed help you grow your businesses. So every success today as you move forward. I want to thank again the Farm Credit Canada and Nova Scotia Farm Loan Board for being sponsors, and everybody that's come today to participate in this, and look forward to the work that Perennia has done as well on this, and everybody else. So thank you. I just wish hopefully next year we'll be in person and make it even better. Thank you.
We appreciate those words from the Honorable Keith Caldwell, our Minister of Agriculture here in Nova Scotia, and I agree with him. It would be so great to look forward to being together in the same room again. And last year there was such a great turnout and participation at the event in Halifax. So we do look forward to that. But we definitely, one of the great things is now that you can all participate from wherever you're at, and we're all getting used to working and doing our business in this virtual world. So as we go through the webinar today, the session, we do have a few housekeeping things with regards to Zoom, and we want this session to be interactive. We encourage you to use that Q&A at the bottom, type in some questions, and that's really why we're all here, to be able to share the expertise. So we're looking forward to presentations from each of our panelists, but if you, if something comes to mind or you want to ask a question, then by all means enter it into that Q&A, and we'll do our best to monitor that and get to those questions throughout the session today. And as Mr. Caldwell mentioned, we do have two presenting sponsors for our digital series, and really appreciate the great support of FCC and the Nova Scotia Farm Loan Board, who are both integral parts of our agri-food industry in Nova Scotia, and we appreciate their support. So we're just going to have a brief video from each of them to introduce you to them.
Who is FCC? Well, our About Us is really about you, the goals you want to reach, and the dreams you have. You're invested in your business, and as the only lender 100% invested in Canadian agriculture and food, so are we. Because a dream is just the start. It also needs a lender who understands where your dreams come from, where they can go, and what it takes to get there. If you want to start, grow, or transform your agriculture or food business, we can help. Because we're not just your lender. We're your champion, your catalyst, and we're behind you every step of the way. We are FCC. Dream. Grow. Thrive.
My name is Alphonse Vermeulen. My wife and I farm 50 dairy cows on a robot in Urbania, Nova Scotia.
We actually got married in 2014 and bought the farm in 2014. And originally we owned a tie stall in Princeport, and it was just January of 2020 that we moved to this site in Urbania.
We've been working with the farm loan board since the beginning, when we first bought the farm in Princeport. The farm loan board was more flexible with the challenges we were facing trying to enter the industry.
They helped us actually to do this site switch. They provided us with a loan that helped us to retrofit the barn that we're standing in right now. That was a tremendous help. It was a big step for us to move from the tie stall to the milking facility that we have here.
So with the loan board, we're character lenders, and we do like to develop relationships with our clients. And what that means is through the years, we get to see how people are progressing and how they're growing. We get to see their weaknesses as well as their strengths. We do look at, we review their financials yearly, and we like to see where we can make that better and make them stronger.
So we're really a complement to the other lending options. You know, we say that we don't compete with banks or other lending agencies. What we really want to do is provide a solution for farmers that is different than what's being offered commercially. Really diving down on the business plan, working with them to make sure that they have a partnership with other programs or granting opportunities is really what we're focused on.
They understood a lot of things that even we didn't understand, and it really helped us navigate some tough times when you're trying to get into the industry.
Our entire Minister of Agriculture digital series has been brought to you by Perennia. And again, Perennia is an integral component of our agri-food industry in Nova Scotia, and they provide support across a broad, diverse array of expertise that they bring to producers and processors and everybody really in that value chain. So we just want to share a brief video about Perennia and some of the great work that they do.
At Perennia, our focus is on helping Nova Scotia's agriculture, seafood, and food and beverage sectors overcome industry challenges, access new markets, and develop new products. It is our mission to support the growth, transformation, and economic development of these industries. Our comprehensive team of specialists have a wide variety of skills and a deep understanding and knowledge of their focus areas. Our agriculture specialists have expertise covering horticulture, livestock, plant pathology, field crops, and soils. Our seafood specialists have experience in successfully leading complex development projects and facilitating partnerships. Our food scientists have expertise in a variety of areas, including process development, process troubleshooting, value-added product development, food packaging solution, and product commercialization. Our quality and food safety specialists can support you in ensuring the safety and quality of your products. Our analytical team has expertise in chemistry and microbiology in many areas, including cannabis analysis. Your goals are our goals. We will work with you to achieve your business goals and help your company grow. Learn more about Perennia by visiting www.perennia.ca.
So again, we certainly appreciate the support of FCC and the Nova Scotia Farm Loan Board and everyone at Perennia for bringing this digital series to us. And we've got some great upcoming events as well that we're going to share at the end so that you can understand what we have in upcoming weeks as well. So I told you we have a great panel of experts assembled for today. And what we're going to do is Michael Leblanc is going to take us on a little bit of a journey on retail and what's going on and share some expertise there. And then we're going to have Troy Lenehan from Eden Valley Poultry, and Troy's going to give you some real life experience from their journey over the last 12 months and also some consumer insights. And then we're going to have Emily Page from Perennia, who's going to share some real life examples of 3 products and talk to you about how those trends apply to those products. And then Patrick Kelly from Perennia is going to take us on a bit more of a deep dive on one of those trends on buy local. So we've got a great group set up and really excited to learn from each of them. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Michael Leblanc for you, and then we'll turn it over to Michael. So Michael is a senior advisor to the Retail Council of Canada and brings 25 plus years of brand and retail marketing and e-commerce leadership experience. And Michael is recently added to Rethink Retail's prestigious top 100 global retail influencers list for 2021. And he's also the producer and host of a network of leading podcasts, including Canada's top retail industry podcast, The Voice of Retail, plus Remarkable Retail with author Steve Dennis, Global E-commerce Tech Talks, and The Food Producer with Dr. Sylvain Charlebois. So Michael, you are obviously busy in this space, and we are really excited to welcome you and look forward to learning what's going on in retail.
Well, it's great to be here this afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, Peter. And let's jump right in. I've got a quick overview of a vast industry, so I wanted to kick it off quickly and dive right in. So, when I'm asked to explain retail, and this is even in the before time, pre-COVID, retail on a page, modern retail on a page, it looked something like this. It was bifurcating along 2 axes: value and convenience, luxury, experience, and efficiency. And you can imagine in your own personal life, thinking about retailers, the retailers you do business with, where the different retailers fit, right? So some are more experience focused, some are more doing sampling in stores, some are more exceeding in that area, some are more efficient. They just want to get the best price stacked on the shelf and get it out. And this value, convenience, and luxury. The more important consideration around this bifurcation is, even in this time of talking about, the retail apocalypse, was really just a media narrative, is retail isn't dead, but boring retail is. Now, that's straight from my podcast partner, Steve Dennis, who talks about the boring middle. So if you are not acting in one of these areas of the quadrant, if you are in the center, that's the danger zone. If your service is good, not great, if your assortment is fine, but not spectacular, people will not remark upon you. You're not remarkable. And that is, whether it's in the before time, pre-COVID, accelerated thanks to the COVID crisis, or in the future, really modern retail on a page. Well, then, and this happened, the COVID crisis hit us almost just over a year ago. My own personal perspective, what I thought I'd be doing during the apocalypse and what actually happened, we all headed to the grocery stores. We saw tremendous demand suddenly shift into grocery. That's both from food service demand shifting into grocery, and the response and reaction of the grocers and the producers. So as we think about the ongoing impacts of the COVID era, somewhat different in the Atlantic bubble, but globally, many of these things are the case. Depending on your commodity you sell, the format, your location, your landlord, they like you, you didn't like them, they like you. The state of your readiness already going into the crisis to be able to handle the necessities of modern retail. COVID hit retailers either like a shockwave of demand, or a sledgehammer of store closures. And you can see by the charts on the right, I just pull a few different charts. These just dramatic implications and charts. Tremendous drops in commuting, tremendous drops in categories like apparel, footwear, growth in other categories. Immigration is down. Everything is really impacted. And as we continue to adapt our lives to the COVID era, it is creating massive disruption in retail, what we buy, where we live, where we play, where we shop, where we learn. Millions and millions of Canadians are working at home. And this is this may be the longest lasting implication of the COVID era. And it certainly has implications on where and how people shop. Just to give you an order of magnitude, where I am in Toronto, 500,000 people almost would go in and out of the downtown core on a daily basis in the before time. That's not happening today. That's estimated to be 6 to 7% of those numbers. What will that look like post-COVID, post-vaccine? What we've seen is the rise of what's been called the outdoor economy. So some categories in retail are actually doing really well when you think of grocery, home improvement, gardening, furniture, outdoor, pets. Pandemic puppies are a big thing. Alcohol, cannabis, these are all growth areas. Other areas are struggling mightily. Of course, food service in most of the country is struggling mightily. Here in the GTA. Restaurants have been closed for indoor service since October. I mean, it's epic. Retailers just opened up here after almost 120 days, some of the longest lockdowns in North America. So it's really been a tremendous challenge. And of course, tourism is vastly different than it was before. Just a few numbers, and I'm going to have this. I'll make this presentation available so that you can see these numbers. Results in December, the last month we have results in. Retail was actually up 3% year over year. That's important to understand, but by category, dramatic differences. Overall, retail was down 1.4% for 2020. Pretty remarkable, given how many stores were closed. Stores were closed up to 4 months during the year, but certain key categories are tremendously outperforming others. And you can see it on this chart. I mean, check out food and beverage stores up 10, 11%. Conversely, look at clothing and accessories down 20, 26%. And that's not a demand. That's not a shift to where your store is. That's just a demand side shortcoming. And you can see here by province where, and this is year 2000, where retail is falling. And you can see by categories where there's growth. Year-to-date growth, this is from November. You can see strength and weakness in categories, and you can see strength and weaknesses in different parts of the country. E-commerce is big year. The e-commerce has probably been advanced 5, maybe 7 years in many categories, probably 2 in the US. The US was ahead. It's at $4.7 billion of e-commerce in December, at 7.8% of total retail trade. When Retail Council of Canada looks at that and just strips out and looks at core retail, take out gas, take out auto sales, we estimate right now we're at about 14 to 16% of core retail sales. And in e-commerce, by Stats Can numbers, which aren't perfect, but they're a good indication, they report 70% increase of e-commerce. I mean, these are numbers that we just never seen before, of a magnitude that we're just not familiar with. And again, indexed to the US, they went up about 25%. So Canada was a bit of a laggard. I like to say fast follower. Just given their scale, we can't invest in the same pace and the same cadence. Now we're catching up leaps and bounds. And retailers of all formats are reporting that. Grocery e-commerce, of course, very relevant to this audience, and we'll talk about it later. Not only has grocery e-commerce taken a huge leap forward, probably one of the biggest growths in categories, furniture, another one, but retail has grown. You can see in the bottom right some estimates of potential growth, estimates of what percentage of retail grocery is done online versus what it was. We'll talk about that a little later. And importantly, grocery spins the flywheel of e-commerce. When people shop online, they buy other things. We've seen that around the world in the before time. We're seeing it now. Once you start buying your groceries online and get familiar with that, you are going to start buying other commodities. My podcast partner and Dalhousie University professor Sylvain Charlebois reported in some research 4.2 million Canadians in 2020 shopped online for food that had not done that behavior before. This is a circuit breaker of consumer behavior. We've never seen anything like this. And again, from Dal, a couple of stats. What are people doing? Curbside, home delivery, direct from restaurant, using apps, getting meal kits, farmers direct, and then 37% have not purchased food. But these numbers are spectacular. Why are they doing it? It's convenience, which is interesting because convenience significantly outstrips concern about health. That means, in my mind, that this will be a lasting change more than a temporary adjustment to a circumstance. So when you're buying for convenience, you've discovered the convenience of shopping online. That's important. If we saw this number inverted, that most people are shopping because they're concerned about COVID, you would expect that to come down. So we'll see a little bit about that. And what do you dislike when ordering food online? You can see there's a whole number of reasons. Number one, of course, I like to see it, touch it, and make my own selections. Where are people shopping online for grocery? You can see this is from mid-2020, and you can see the span of where folks are shopping. I think if we looked at this Now, if we looked at this in a couple of months, I think the biggest difference you'd see is the Empire Group would probably go close to Walmart because of their launch of their Voila service, which in Halifax is curbside. Here in the GTA is home delivery, and soon to be launching in Montreal and Calgary. They invested over $200 million in state-of-the-art plants to do that. And, when we look at satisfaction rates, and again, I'm not going to hit on all these specifically, you can see what and how people love it. And you can see what commodities, interestingly, that people are liking now, and importantly, liking for the future. Look at fresh meat, 2% of that done pre-COVID, 19%, estimates as high as 18% of consumption. Some of these are, hard to see versus shelter in place. Some of this data is the US, which is ahead. We're going to see. QSR, I'm going to touch on restaurants a little bit. QSR has been decimated. Some areas doing better than others. The breakfast and lunch has kind of gone away, but the dinner's gone up. So people are still eating out. And, the on-premise has collapsed by and large, but the takeout, the drive-through, and again, think back to that thought. If you were waiting and ready to do this kind of work, you were waiting and ready to adapt. Important thing, and this from the EY Future Customer Index, what is going to change? How are people's lives going to be different? This is global, but I looked at the Canadian numbers. They're not much different. How I work, 49%, is going to be better post-COVID than it was pre-COVID. Billion-dollar question. What are people going to get back to when COVID is over? Look at grocery shopping, 58%. They're going to be comfortable returning there. And the stockpile. So as we've been going through the COVID crisis, people have not been spending money. And look at the average change of household net worth. Some of this is based in the house, but some of this is based in the $200 billion not spent on all the things we all used to do that is sitting there. We call it the stockpile, and it's creating tremendous demands. How do we think about 2021? Listen, will things be back to normal? Probably no. A little bit. Starting the miracle of the vaccine is helpful. The rollout's a bit choppy for sure. Expect a K recovery, better at the top end for folks, lower, worse for service-oriented people. Will e-commerce stick? We'll talk about that. Yes and no. Will employees go back to their office? Crucial question. And how will the workforce change this year? Focus on mental health versus physical health. A lot of information I fired at you. As Peter said, I have a bunch of podcasts to learn more. And with that, I'll throw it back to you, Peter, for questions.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And what a great amount of information. I'm looking at my screen and I'm looking around and I'm going, and thank you for mentioning that you're going to share your the slides, because I think there's some great stuff there for people to study and use, really practically in their business. So thank you very much, and appreciate all those great insights. And that must be a lobster trap from New Brunswick, is it? Is that where that's from?
Well, in fact, yeah, that's, Leblanc, that was our cottage in just outside Shediac. On a clear day, we could see the PEI, so visited Halifax and the Maritimes many times back when we had our cottage just outside Shediac in New Brunswick.
Awesome. So while I was listening, I just wanted to see, we've seen this big shift in e-commerce, and I thought it was an interesting graph about, how the different retailers, because one thing for me as producers and processors are watching is that, they really have to look at where their products are being sold and try and work with the best and the right customers to get access to the market. With this shift to e-commerce, how much do you think will stick once the world sort of gets through this?
Well, the short answer is no one knows. However, we can make some assumptions. The assumption is, will it go back to where it was in the before time pre-COVID? No. Will it stay where it is today? Probably not. The waterline will likely recede, but it will not recede anywhere near to where it was before. Canadians, it's a virtuous circle. We've seen it around the world. South Korea, for example, just to throw some numbers out globally, 25%. In the before time, 25% of groceries sold online. In England, it was about 8 to 9%. In the US, it was about 3%. Right now, our estimates, you could, 9, 10, as high as 12%, our groceries are sold online. Inverting that math, groceries will still, the vast majority, be sold in stores for the foreseeable future, perhaps, for in our lifetimes. However, the die is set. The die is cast. That momentum will continue. We've gone from probably 1% in this country of groceries sold online to, as I said, 8 to 12. Will it stay that high? Probably not, because stores are a wonderful thing. Stores, customers aren't getting the memo that stores are dead. Stores are not dead. The experience, their value, they're convenient. However, the number will be significant.
Right. Yeah. And I would agree. I think that we'll see it settle out somewhere lower, but it is definitely here to stay in food. And as we figure out how that last mile works in a country as wide as Canada is, it will definitely have an impact going forward. So.
Well, and we have a bit of a model to look at with the Atlantic bubble, because we can look to the Atlantic provinces to see consumer behavior, and we can see, your great state of COVIDness, so to speak. Sobeys just launched Voila Pickup in Store, very popular, right? So it's not at the same level, but the convenience aspect is universal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you very much, Michael. Really appreciate your insights. And I know you're going to stick around, and we will address any questions that we have come up. So I'm now going to pass the baton to Troy from Eden Valley Poultry. And Troy is the Director of Continuous Improvement and Operations at Eden Valley Poultry. And he's been with that operation since 2012. And he's also been involved in the poultry industry in Nova Scotia for the last 20 years, working with Eastern Protein, ACA, and obviously now Eden Valley. And Troy has his Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, and he's also a graduate of the Queen's Executive Program. And I know Troy is very passionate about what he does, and I look forward to learning about what's been happening at Eden Valley, and also some other consumer insights he has.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, similar to what Michael said, here's a top snapshot of our local business, our top 10 business. So this would be all of our top 10 kilos. So we are in with Costco, Loblaws, the KFC, Swiss Chalets, a lot of food service, etc. You can see in 2020 here, we had a big drop in March and April. So some of our volume were down because of the food service drops, right? So because we service over 300 KFC restaurants, and a lot of that product moves into Ontario. So regionally within Canada, we saw much more different demand based on what province we were in, and that was driven by different restrictions. And certainly, you can see that allocations because of that were dropped back. So supply management allocates so many kgs. So there's a mix there between allocation cutbacks and restrictions being implemented. Typically Mother's Day kicks off the summer, so we see an increase. Everybody wants to get their barbecues out and things like that. So we usually see a spike. We didn't see that last year, again, due to different demand based in the markets. And of course, around Thanksgiving, we're up a little bit in volume, but overall, the fourth quarter was down in demand, and that results in us not being able to meet top 10, but put more into a non-value-added sale into the commodity business, which is not where we want to be. Local, so for, local here in Eden Valley is Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI, so kind of that Atlantic bubble that Michael referred to. So certainly we saw a little bit different here. We saw, obviously we get some spikes in Super Bowl, but within March and April, the volume locally, we saw increased demand, right? And that's because there was a lot of panic buying within the retailers. So with Costco and Loblaws, that was the time where here in Nova Scotia, it was just coming into light and people were panic buying. There was people filling their freezers, and it was really hard to keep up with the consumer demand. And you can see that over March break, it took a little bit of hit, and then it starts to dive off in April. And that's when we start to see the food service business start to tank, because restaurants were closing in April and things like that. And people were primarily shopping at grocery stores. May, we did see a bigger spike. So, as restrictions start to lift in Nova Scotia, we did see record sales through KFC and Mary Brown's for us. So, people were eager to get out of their houses, and they started going into drive-through locations. So even some of our in-store dining business didn't grow as much. The Swiss Chalets as an example, because that's more about an in-dining experience. And I think consumers are still a bit nervous to go into restaurants and dine. And then at the end of the quarter, we had increased allocations in chicken, and the fourth quarter just kind of tanked because people demand just dropped off. So there's a bunch of more chicken on the market than what was required, and that resulted in some more commodity sales. As Michael said, food service for Canada. So case-wise, we can see that especially in the third quarter, we're significantly lower than what we've been doing, and that is all about the quick service restaurants. The drive-throughs, the KFCs, the Mary Browns, the Swiss Chalets, all that nationally across the country. Food service took a huge dive as retail remained pretty strong. Kind of Peter say, my numbers show pretty much the same thing. 86% of people still want to shop in store. So the online experience grew, and based on the numbers, curbside pickup was the driver for that. So again, I see two real things, and it is about the value for consumers and convenience when they're shopping. Where do we want to shop? So what drives the behavior? What decisions am I doing? Where do I want to go? So you can see pricing, again, for value of your dollar. So pricing is a big driver, and obviously the freshness and quality, so people want a good product at a good price. Frequency here. So, 62% will shop at a chain grocery store, whereas 37% would shop at a discount banner, and 17% actually shop at an independent grocery store. So, that convenience piece, having 77% of people shop at the same store, that's about predictability. That's about convenience. That's about, knowing the same, we're creatures of habit. So we tend to want to go to what we know. And on the other side, you can see customers who go to multiple stores, they're the flyer shoppers, the ones that are looking for different values. They're shopping ahead of time to say, where are the best deals? And how can I go about that? And I'm willing to make 2 or 3 different stops to get a better deal and save some money. Loyalty programs are big. So, as you can see, 67% of people are actively rewarded and into loyalty programs. So again, when I'm spending money, I'd like to get some type of reward or value out of my dollar. And, as you can see, 63% are very satisfied with the programs. And most people have a Costco membership, and Costco is a great example of having rewards for their store, right? You pay your Costco membership fee, and as a consumer, I expect good quality product at a decent and fair price. Interesting here. So, there's a 12% shift of people that are willing to wait for promotional offers. So as you can see, before the pandemic, 31% would wait, extremely likely that they would wait for a promotional offer, and that grew to 43%. So again, speaks to the trend of consumer value and money. And you can see that, 72% actually will kind of canvas flyers either online or before they come into the store through the ones in the mail, and they'll be intentional about what they're going to do. So they'll always have a game plan on how they're going to fly or shop. Of course, with COVID, everybody's concerned about, is my shopping experience safe? So, how is it important that they provide sanitary and safety measures? So top ones here are wearing masks, sanitizing of carts and equipment. So sanitizing, cleanliness, and masks seem to be the biggest driver on what's important to consumers, so I can go into the store and have a safe shopping experience. Technology and convenience. So, convenience is really key. So self-checkouts really were the driver here, right? So that, for a couple of reasons, it's quicker, so I can get in and out on the customer experience. I'm in and out sooner, and there's less contact. I'm not in line waiting. I'm not having contact with the cashier, etc. Mobile discount and coupons were a big driver, and then the online ordering and home deliveries were part of the convenience package. Social responsibility is always the buzzword now, and we hear a lot about that. So, it's interesting that 64% of people surveyed here would indicate they would switch their primary grocery store based on their sustainability practices. So that's around really about waste, primarily food waste and waste to landfill. And there's a lot about there is a bigger trend on local. Where's my food coming from? And that's what we see consumers. They want to know more questions on where their food's sourced and where their food is coming from. So Canadians have changed their behavior. So as you can see, 59% of Canadians say they're visiting less stores. 46% have changed since the beginning of the pandemic in their habits, and 26% are still stockpiling. And that's what I refer to as the panic buying, which we saw here in the beginning of the pandemic. Interesting that 14% of Canadians say they purchased more private label, and 59% say because they are less expensive than the national brands, and 45% of Canadians say private labels offer real good value. So again, you see that trend on quality and value through the private label versus national brands. Interesting on millennials, so 82% say it's important to buy local products, and that's an opportunity for the industry, especially as in our business in Eden Valley, Nova Scotia. As you can see, the trend is growing for local products. That'll be a good trend for us to get on board with. So that's what I had to share today.
So thank you very much, Troy. That's a lot of great consumer insights too, and it's great to have access to that. From my perspective, as producers and processors, we have to stay in touch with what's going on with consumers and try to look to the future. So, and certainly looking at those, some of those volume numbers, it was amazing the shift in your business. And as you know much better than I do, just because it's still a chicken, but selling it into food service is very different than selling it into retail. And I'm sure you had to react a lot within the plant to meet that big change in demand. So with regards to, and I know a lot of us, we would have read in the news that you did experience an outbreak of COVID-19 at Eden Valley Poultry. And just wondering perhaps if you could share maybe some of the things that you did and if you've got any advice to other producers and processors along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the end of the day, we had the 6 cases and we worked with public health and we took the break. And, what we realized is we thought we were doing all the right stuff, right? We've had Department of Labor in here. We worked with public health. We were told we were doing everything we could do, but at the end of the day, we weren't operating. So that wasn't good enough for us. So, we took a CI approach. We understood we were vulnerable. So having the ability to work with public health and see how they trace cases was a really good learning for us. So we understood more about our weak points and these groups called cohorts and how they trace it back. And our weak points, I guess my advice would be is mask up. So our weak points were common areas, lunchrooms, locker rooms, things like that. Those are the areas we had, people would, when they're eating, their mask is not on, or they might go to the microwave with their mask down. So, we did 146 different action item points. So we had a worksite improvement team, and it was important for us as a consumer to make our workspace feel different. So when people came back to work after the shutdown, there were significant changes here. We did all that within 5 days, everything from new protocols, new screening, new traffic flow, so everything's unidirectional, and changing our whole lunchrooms to be plexiglass, readjusting break times to meet the capacity of what we can handle in the rooms. Plexiglass, basically at Eden Valley now, unless you're eating and putting food in your face, you're on a mask and you're basically, when you're eating, you're in a fishbowl. And we have compliance officers that manage their activities just to remind people, hey, don't forget to put your mask on, things like that. So, COVID's not gone away, but I'm certainly feel we're an industry leader and one of the top safe work environments here. I mean, we've learned a lot and, we're happy to share what we do. And at the end of the day, COVID's not away, but we've significantly reduced the risk. And hope, because being the only processing plant in Nova Scotia for chicken and turkey, it's important that we're operating. So
that's right. There are so many people. You have employees who depend on you. You have people on the other end of the value chain on the primary production side who are depending on you, and then consumers and customers who are depending. So it's an important. Every piece of the value chain is important, but it's you have people depending on you on both sides. So if you try to look to the future and think about some of the changes that have been made at Eden Valley, how many of those changes do you think will just become a part of how you do your job in the future?
I think they're becoming normalized now. So, by default, people don't like change, right? That's just who we are. But, I can tell you, when you your compliance changes automatic when you go through what we went through. And there was a lot of, all of our employees, 415 employees not working. I mean, they all came back and did the right thing. And I think a lot of these practices are just embedded in our business now. So certainly we won't take our foot off the gas, when we have vaccinations and things like that, we would probably revisit, but certainly a lot of the things we're doing now will stay in place. Not only do we see the benefits of COVID, but sickness in general, the flu season, it kind of really didn't exist. So there's other things that we need to consider because we are in food production. So it's the better we can keep staff, healthy and ready to come to work, then the better it is for the business.
No, I agree, and definitely the trying to it's always hard to quantify what the impact to a business is with things like sick days and that, but with that reduced because of a different working environment, there are some benefits to come out of it for sure. So, and with the changes you've made, and if I sort of put my old Loblaw retailer hat on, which I wore for a few years, I'm hearing in my mind that the cost of production has to be changing. The things that you've had to do within the plant have impacted perhaps its efficiencies, perhaps it's increased incremental costs for different things. Do you have a sense yet what that's going to mean and whether the market will bear the change that you'll have to put out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course it costs more money because PPP, masks, things like that. So, and every person is looking to pass on some money. I think our customers have been good with us. For us, it's about getting more efficient and removing more waste in our processes. So when you get extra costs, that's how we attack it. We're gonna look to get more improvements and remove more waste and increase value to our customers. And some things we've learned is that some products take more for us to make, but we need to focus on the gross profit, and that's okay because we sell it at a better value.
Mm-hmm. Right. So looking at how the entire thing, not just the increases, but really the entire part of the business. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Well, Troy, we certainly appreciate all of your insights, and I'm watching the questions and I don't see any yet. So I would certainly encourage people, if you have some questions or comments for any of our panelists, I'd encourage you to put them in there and we will definitely address them. And if you've got some for Troy or Michael, we will definitely come back to that at the end because I'm sure that they can answer what you would be asking of them, and make sure you take advantage of the opportunity to ask them. So, Troy, thanks again. Really appreciate your perspectives, and it was great to learn more about Eden Valley, and then also some of those consumer insights you shared as well. So, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
So our next panelist is Emily Page, and Emily is a food scientist with Perennia Food and Agriculture. And Emily assists clients in developing food products with processes such as recipe formulation, development, commercialization, scale up, nutritional labeling, and shelf life determination. So many different things that are all necessary in that sort of development of food products. And before joining Perennia, Emily received her bachelor's degree in food science from Guelph, where she also received a certificate in business. And that really helps her understand how businesses have to make decisions, from cost evaluation to marketing plans, and really can be a real benefit to producers and processors who are working with Emily through that development process. So Emily, I'm going to turn it over to you to share some real life experiences that you've been working on in the last little bit with Perennia.
Thank you, Peter. It's nice switching things up for a change and you introducing me. Thank you for that.
I know it's a bit of role reversal, but I like it. I'm looking forward to learning from you.
Okay, so my name is Emily Page, and I'm a food scientist with Perennia. So my session today is going to give an overview of how the product development team at our Innovation Center helps get value-added products to market. And what a better way to do that than to use real examples. Today, I'm going to dive into our product development services, and I have 3 clients to talk about, share how we got their ideas to market, and what current trends they are tackling. Before that, I just want to give a brief overview of Perennia. Our vision is that Nova Scotia is a recognized world leader in producing innovative, environmentally responsible, safe food of impeccable quality. And our mission is to support growth, transformation, and economic development in Nova Scotia's agriculture, seafood, and food and beverage sectors. Just a brief overview of our service areas. We have our agricultural department, quality and food safety, product development, lab services, including both plant health and cannabis, and fisheries. So the question of the hour and what many people seem to wonder, what do we do at the Innovation Centre? Well, to start, the Innovation Centre is home to our product development team, our mobile bottling team, Bloom Labs, which is the cannabis testing lab, and tenants. One unique part of the center is we have a pilot plant and also tenant spaces that are available to rent for companies who are just starting out. The tenant spaces can be turned into an office or even a small food production facility. And how does the product development team help get value-added products to market? Well, we have a variety of services that are listed on the screen, but honestly, the easiest way to explain it is we really do help ideas get to market. And by that, I mean, we can jump in at any point. You can just have an idea or have a product almost ready to launch. And when you are ready, we can become an extension of your team. For example, I have our commercialization cycle on the screen, which outlines the step one goes through in product development. But the most important point is that this is not a circle with sequential arrows. And that's because product development is an ongoing process, and we can also help at any step. For some, they do come with their idea, and we start from the very beginning with recipe development. Or you can have a recipe you want to take to market and need help on getting that to the shelf with either shelf life testing, packaging selection, or maybe labeling. So we help clients work through the commercialization cycle, which are the examples coming up. And these are real stories of clients we've worked with through our Agri-Food Accelerator program on getting their products to market and bringing value to Nova Scotia agriculture. So our first example is Vivo, and Vivo is actually one of our first clients in the Agri-Food Accelerator program. Vivo came to Perennia with their recipes and idea already done and needed help getting from that recipe stage to a commercialized product. Perennia helped in moving to a more commercial recipe, scaling up with a co-packer, shelf life, and labeling. They already knew what products they were launching to market and only needed help in those final steps. They've launched 3 flavors, as you can see, which are blueberry, apple, and cherry, which are made with 50% Nova Scotia fruit juice and 50% mineral sparkling water. Vivo launched tackling many trends we're still seeing today of natural, lower sugar, and on that note, no added sugar. Their sugars on their product come directly from the fruit juices, sparkling water, local products, and fruit juice not from concentrate, so not processed, just straight up fresh pressed fruit juice. Typically, products like these are reaching the more health conscious consumers, which have been an ever-growing group of people and has only gotten larger in the last year. People are definitely caring more about their health. I guess with that, Peter, do you have any questions about Vivo specifically before I move on to the next one?
Well, for me, Emily, when I'm listening to and I've seen Vivo products, I believe I saw them at Costco and some other retailers as well. So it's always great to see products go from that sort of recipe to commercial and being out there in retail. But juice or water, that sort of beverage category is intensely competitive. So I'm just wondering from your perspective, like how are they going to stand out in that huge category against some big players too, by the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the beverage category is definitely very full. That, it's a whole aisle in the grocery store and it's full of other products like those big players. But Vivo put themselves in a unique spot by creating a product that's 50% fresh juice and 50% mineral sparkling water. There's been trends to both fruit juice not from concentrate and also sparkling water has seen huge growth. Before in that beverage aisle, you'd only see a couple sparkling water options, and now it's like a whole section of its own. So these beverages from Vivo offer more of like a lower sugar alternative to juice drinkers, and also a sugar syrup and sweetener free alternative to pop drinkers.
And I think the in that category, and when you get into category management and you start dealing with subcategories and that kind of thing, but it seems that that real fruit and that real fruit juice is something they're going to really have to educate and really make sure people understand the difference, because there are some products that would compete with them, and to the uneducated, perhaps like maybe me before you and I were talking about this, some of those products are quite similar. So it'll have to be, it's great to address trends, I think, but you also have to make sure that you don't assume that consumers know, right?
Absolutely. And as I said before, also is for the fruit, it's from Nova Scotia fruit and Nova Scotia juice processors. So they've definitely gone for that local aspect as well. And then the mineral water is Canadian mineral water. So they're definitely going for that local product and a Canadian made product with Canadian ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next client I'm going to talk about is Piecemeal Fruit Provisions. Piecemeal is a meal kit company in Nova Scotia that just launched in February. Kara came to Perennia with an idea of this more sustainable meal kit offering that sourced ingredients from Nova Scotia farmers. So Perennia helped Piecemeal through our Agri-Food Accelerator program in business startup consulting. So really fine-tuning the idea and what was important when launching her business. Also guiding through food regulations. So what would they need to sell food directly to their consumers? And through that, also kitchen space and the scale up portion of taking this idea from a home kitchen to a commercial kitchen to then be sold to consumers. Piecemeal has made their meal kits stand out by being a more sustainable option. As you can see in the right picture, the kits come in these boxes, and inside those boxes are paper bags with each meal. They have 2 pickup locations. One is in Halifax and one in the Valley. So each week you go to pick up your pickup location and get your box with all of the ingredients you need for 3 meals of the week, and of course the recipes. Piecemeal is definitely surrounded by sustainability. That is the largest trend, which is supported by sourcing vegetables from farmers in Nova Scotia. And you get exactly what you need. So for example, that top picture on the left, you get 3 mushrooms and 1 carrot, and then everything else you need to go with it. So you're not left with a bag of mushrooms or carrots afterwards. You get exactly what you need for that recipe, which is reducing food waste. All food is also in sustainable packaging, so it's either returnable or recyclable. They have a jar return program, which means guilt-free packaging. And when you buy a kit from Piecemeal, you can then return the jars at the next week when you're picking up your next box to then be sanitized and reused in another box. So they're not being thrown away. The glass jars are recyclable, but they're actually being reused. And then for those of you who have tried a meal kit before, you know they always come in an obscene amount of plastic, and their food is sourced from everywhere. So Kara's box is more geared towards consumers who want to support local, want to eat healthier, want to try new things, new ingredients and new recipes at home, and also care about the environment. Peter, I'll pause there again if you have any questions about Piecemeal specifically.
Yeah, I was really interested to learn about this program, and I think it's so great to see people addressing this need in the market, because consumers on a coast to coast are responding to some of the programs in other meal kit offerings. So it's interesting to see this, especially with the returnable packaging component of it. But one of the questions I always have when have the opportunity to work with a smaller, I'll say, producer or processor is, how do they stand out? Because there are other meal kits on the market, and we do even see a little bit now starting to come with some returnable packaging as well. So how else are they going to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, so they definitely stand out more on the sustainability, and then also the local aspect, because it's all from Nova Scotia farmers. But then they also have their motto, which is everyone deserves good food. And that's based on the different pricing options. So one person can actually choose to pay more so that somebody else can pay less. So the regular box is called the Good Value box, and that's $40 a week, which is comparable to the bigger competitors on the market. However, there's also another box called the Close the Gap box, which is where someone can pay $50 a week to be able to provide someone else with $10 off a week if they're experiencing food insecurity or more in need. So if you buy this Close a Gap subscription, an Easy on the Pocket Bit subscription becomes available. This fills more Kara's motto of everyone deserves good food and sustainability and just supporting local.
Wow, I think that's a really interesting model. And I really look forward to learning how consumers respond to that. I think that we do have a lot of people, and COVID changed things, how people look at food and how they look at different things. So I'll be very interested to learn how that works and how many people it benefits as well. So I think it's great, and was really interested to learn about that.
Yeah, so she just launched in February, so she's only had a few months, but has said that there actually has been really good uptake on people paying the more to have a couple other people paying less. So it is already starting to see like that option being purchased. We were wondering, you know, if people would do it or just choose the regular box, but there has been sales already in the more expensive box.
Great.
Okay, and then the last and final client I'm going to talk about today is Salt Spray Farms, who is a very recent client of Perennia through the Accelerator program. And they're actually so recent, they have not yet launched. So everyone today is going to get a little sneak peek. Salt Spray is a new company made up of 2 chefs in Cape Breton. They came to Perennia with these 2 dressing recipes, raspberry balsamic and maple miso, and we're ready to sell them. The dressings are made with fresh ingredients and they're not pasteurized to have that cooked flavor. So they really give you that restaurant quality, fresh type dressing at home. And because they're not pasteurized, when they are selling, they will be sold in that refrigerated, more premium space. So Perennia helps Salt Spray with their shelf life testing, nutrition facts tables, and label review. So they had their recipes already ready to go, and they didn't want to make any changes. You know, we always can make suggestions on pasteurizing or adding ingredients such as preservatives so that they could extend their shelf life before we tested it. But they wanted to remain clean label and a good quality, fresh product. So they were willing to sacrifice that a bit of a shorter shelf life to stay on a quality, fresh product. The Salt Spray is on the current following trends of supporting local. The raspberry balsamic dressing is made with Nova Scotia raspberries, and the maple miso is made with Nova Scotia maple syrup. They also are providing restaurant quality meals at home and without the effort. So you're not making a fresh salad dressing at home. You can purchase it from the store, and it's not going to be one of those packaged with lots of ingredients salad dressings, which is the third thing they're going towards, which is clean labeling. So there's no added preservatives, or as some people like to say, nothing you cannot pronounce. So unfortunately, we don't have any pictures of these in their final labels, but I do have some of the label drafts that I can share. So the first is the raspberry balsamic dressing. And as you can see, with their clean list of ingredients, they also went for a very clean looking label. And the part I want to point out here is on the left side. They tell a story about their product and how to use it. These are 2 chefs who have curated this dressing and are making suggestions on how to use it at home. So sure, you could use this on your regular green salad, but you could also use it on a roasted beet and goat cheese salad, which sounds delicious. And they've done the same on the maple miso. So here they say, try it on salmon, chicken, or even in a rice dish, which sounds amazing. This dressing is my favorite, and I've only ever had it on a salad, so I can't wait to try it in these other ways. Salt Spray will be launching in June, so there will be more details later on where you can find these products. And Peter, any questions about Salt Spray?
Well, as I listen to you talk about the label, Emily, I think maybe they should adjust them and put some of your comments in on those sort of reading of the product suggestions, because I'm watching on the screen and I'm listening to you and I'm thinking that should be added right in there. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing this product in the market. And as we've seen this shift of people from food service to retail, that Michael mentioned, and then impacted Troy's business at Eden Valley as well. Just curious from your perspective, do you think they're doing kind of the right thing to help the people? And my contention is that a lot of the people who have sort of migrated from food service to retail are the millennial generation, the people who we know were eating out in restaurants much more and are now shopping in food stores. So just curious to what you think about what they're doing in that respect. And I didn't want to point out, Emily, that you might be part of that generation and I might not be. So I'm interested in your perspective on that.
For sure. So we millennials, we're curious home cooks, although stereotypically don't know how to. So like you said, we were the big supporters of food service, and that's definitely true. Definitely go out to restaurants and enjoy eating out. So coming home from COVID, a lot of us had to learn how to cook or how to cook better at home. So adding suggestions on your packaging of what to use with it or how to use it will help sell the product. So the first look at the front of the bottle, they look like a tasty salad dressing, but then when you read the label, you can also enjoy it as a marinade. And also personally, I really enjoy products that have more than one use because the fridge is always tight on options. So if I have a sauce that can be used as both a salad dressing and a marinade, that's going to make me want to buy it more.
I agree. I think it's a really interesting positioning, and I agree with you that those multiple uses really help and can help just people just imagine different things with these products. So I didn't want to say spoken as a true millennial, Emily, but you know I appreciate your insights, and I think it's really true that if your product does deliver that restaurant quality experience, then you need to tell people, don't be ashamed of that, be proud of it, and help them recreate that experience because they are eating more meals at home. And if you want them to continue purchasing your product, then you've got to get them onto that. So thanks very much, Emily. Really appreciate that. And we did have some questions come up while Emily was talking. So maybe we'll just address maybe one or two of those right now. And and then before we move to Patrick, and by all means, any of our panelists, if you have any insights into these things. So the first question is, where do we see that U-Pick operations fit when looking at consumer trends in buying local? The product's outdoors, it's fresh, you can meet the grower, but most are a one product operation. I think this is an interesting question. So should the businesses grow exponentially, and do any of our panelists have some insight into that? So Emily, I'll let you answer first, but if any of our others, please jump in.
I would say my first thought there, Peter, with the U-Pick is what I enjoy about going to U-Picks, and I know a lot of people do, is the tourism aspect to it. So going and be able to pick your own strawberries, your own blueberries, and have the experience as well. So it's not just going to a farm stand on the side, although sometimes I'm definitely interested in that as well. And it's great if you can buy directly from the farmer and their side stand so that they get more profit as well. But also the experience of going and picking your own strawberries, and then they can have a little shop where they turn that into jams and jellies and maybe other products. So even if you're only growing one product, it doesn't mean you're only selling one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. And just, I think just to keep adding to the experience for sure. So if any of our other panelists have any insights to that, I'll give you a chance to jump in for sure.
I'll mention a little something before my presentation, but I agree with Emily. It's twofold. One would be experiential tourism aspect of it that certainly they could work with Tourism Nova Scotia on. As well, with our program, as you'll see coming up, we're working on our brand awareness of what's local in Nova Scotia. But we're also going to expand this program hopefully down to the farm aspect, so we can have some brandage on farms, be it flags, large signage that farms can participate in the program for the U-Picks per se, that they could fly a flag with our brand on it, so that in the fall when people come down all over Nova Scotia to the U-Picks, that they can see that this is a quality certified Nova Scotia farm that is giving the proper experience, but also the proper product, Nova Scotia product as well.
Okay, great. So really trying to sort of, we'll say, piggyback a little bit on some of the rest of the work that's been done to help the U-Pick side of things. So great. Great. And there was a question from Darren about the product. His question was, is the product sold at a premium price? And I believe he was asking about the Vivo water. And if I'm incorrect about that, let us know. But Emily, I'm not sure if you have a perspective on sort of the pricing proposition of Vivo or not.
Yeah, I don't know the exact price off the top of my head, but it's a little bit more premium in comparison to the soda waters because of the juice. So the juice is the most expensive ingredient. So getting that added Nova Scotia fruit juice is what brings that price up a little bit, but it's not as much as buying Nova Scotia fruit juice itself, right? Because it's also 50% water. So it's a little bit of a medium. And Peter was right when he said earlier they're in Costco now. So I've seen them at Costco walking by now, which is really exciting that you can save a little bit when buying them at Costco and you get some of each flavor.
And I think that's where it is a premium compared to some of the other players in the category. And that's where that education and communication piece just has to be there to respond to that trend and help people know what is in there and can continue to reinforce it until the producer or processor is so tired of hearing about it, but that's just when the consumer starts to get it. So you do have to reinforce it for sure. So we do have one more question, but I'm going to leave that one till the end because I want to give Patrick an opportunity to talk about some of the work that he's been doing. But I also think it's a great question that probably is something that all of us would have some input on. So I'd like to introduce Patrick Kelly from Perennia Food and Agriculture. And Patrick's the Buy Local Development Officer for Perennia and Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture as well. And his work with the Buy Local team over the past year has contributed to creating this recognizable brand that Nova Scotians see in the stores and also allow them to feel confident about their decisions about buying some of these high quality local Nova Scotia products. And in partnership with Taste of Nova Scotia, the Get Your Hands on Local program, which I'm sure many of you have seen in stores, is growing, and look forward to Patrick sharing some insights on that.
Thank you, Peter. So I'll tell you a little bit about the past year of our program. Officially launched February of 2020, and we did a lot of work striving to get the brand out there, get some awareness around it, but the core part of it is in the retail establishments, grocery stores, independent markets, and our local Nova Scotia liquor commissions. But the reason why the program came about, we had research that Nova Scotians want to buy local. So we partnered with Taste of Nova Scotia, which is a recognized brand across Nova Scotia, recognized for quality, and any partners in that program are selling local ingredients in their products. As well as they had a wide reach advertising wise, wide reach on social media. So we decided to kick off the program, partnered with Taste of Nova Scotia. And then, as I mentioned, a big component, one of the largest components of this is in retail. Some major grocery stores, independent markets we've worked with to get our labeling in there on the Nova Scotia products, because we wanted Nova Scotians to easily recognize what is Nova Scotian in stores. So some of the overview of the program is that it's to quickly identify what's Nova Scotian in your retail stores, help consumers find it without looking at the fine print on the bags and that produce and packaging, but also ultimately helping Nova Scotia producers sell more product. We're hoping that this program, by getting more Nova Scotians to buy more Nova Scotia product, obviously will help Nova Scotia producers produce and sell more product. So these are a few of the retailers. As you can see, we have all the major retailers within Nova Scotia as part of the project. Everyone from our larger retail chains down to the independent markets, as well as the NSLC, of course, for our fine Nova Scotia alcohol. So in store, what we've produced to tag and to highlight products, we have aisle invaders, which are hanging tags, freezer stickers for our delicious frozen foods that you would find in the refrigerators in stores, price stickers that the retailers can write out the price of the product. I see these in many of our independent markets that they put on all their produce our logo, but are able to write what their individual pricing is. Neck tag bottles that you'll see in the NSLC stores, but also on Vivo bottles that you'll find in stores as well, because they're Nova Scotian. And a newly branded ice pick that we just introduced December as the program went through. We found a lot of people confused when they walk to the seafood section that what is Nova Scotian within the ice chest. So we included that in our products as well. And to support this program, just not in stores, we need to get the brand out there, get some brand awareness. So we had media campaigns throughout 2020. So we shot commercials for television, as well as digital media commercials, as well as we did some print advertising, mostly rural, in some of the rural newspapers to get the word out there with some beautiful imagery. And then billboards, as you see there, a nice little bus shelter. We had that plan from the get-go, but as traffic dwindled throughout the cities and rural areas, we kind of laid off on that part of our program for now, but we enhanced another part of our program with social media. So we have a strong following through the Taste of Nova Scotia partnership on social media, but also a new growing trend with marketing, both locally and internationally, is social media influencers. And we have a wide range here in Nova Scotia of social media influencers, from chefs to lifestyle consultants and that. So we've hand selected a few that work really well with food and with cooking. And we've been working with them for the past 6 months on some campaigns on how to make food, how to make your food with using local products, as well as how to shop for your items and where to find them in store. So we've been working with them, slowly growing that program and continuing that going forward. I think that's going to be an important component for our brand. You were able to see all the commercials we produced. We did 4 media campaigns, 1 seafood focused one, but you can able to see all the commercials on the Taste of Nova Scotia YouTube. Just type in Taste of Nova Scotia and they'll be all listed there. So feel free to go check those out. The guy holding the apples there is my 8-year-old son. So we got some local talent in our commercials as well. So in store, here's a few examples of what we have. Walmart, a great partner of ours too. They actually took the bull by the horns, created their own kind of point of sale tagging using the Taste of Nova Scotia logo to continue that brand awareness. In other retailers, like I said, we have the freezer stickers there highlighting our Nova Scotia wild blueberries, and then the danglers highlighting our Nova Scotia maple syrup there, but you'll find those throughout the store on multiple products. So with great excitement, we'd like to announce that we're going to enhance the program. So we started with Taste of Nova Scotia, and under that program, we were only allowed or only able to tag any members of Taste of Nova Scotia. Going into 2021, we still hold a great partnership with Taste of Nova Scotia for their media reach, as well as their quality certifications and brand recognition. But we want to be more inclusive of industry going forward in this program. So we tweaked our brand a bit to be launched coming up May. Will be Get Your Hands on Nova Scotia through some group questionnaires and talking. We found that Nova Scotians are very proud of the words Nova Scotia. And so to use that in our branding, we're able to more highlight that each product on the shelf is Nova Scotian, as well as we can enhance the program a little more, just not even into food. It could go into our Christmas trees or such products like that. So we want to include all industry. So what we're happening now, we got new branding out. We're going to get the new point of sale products there. As well, we're working with industry to define what's local. There is a big gap there as to what is a local product. We have working with our retailers, getting a list of the Nova Scotia products listed in their stores. And then we're going to work with individual industry groups to define what their commodity deems as local. So we'll have those definitions in order, and then we'll be starting to tag many, many more products in our retail stores with our Get Your Hands on Nova Scotia brand. to make Nova Scotians see all that is available in store that comes from our beautiful province. So that is it.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick. And one of the questions that was in the Q&A was, is it used for all products or just members of Taste of Nova Scotia? So I think you answered that it is going to be, or you're getting there with all products, correct?
That's correct. And as I mentioned with the question about UPICs, we hope to expand the program onto farms as well to get them involved. If there's a certain point that they want to package their goods with our brand on it, we are certainly open for that, as well as put some brand awareness on their farms, be it any way that they deem what they would like.
Mm-hmm. Great. And if I put my old retailer hat on again, I'd like to do that once in a while. Do you know if people are seeing some sales, impact on their sales as a result of the program?
So we are just now in the midst of a survey for local consumers. For a few questions will be on, do you recognize the brand? Has that influenced your decision to purchase a product? But as well, we'll dive into a little more about the local buying consumer awareness in that survey.
Mm-hmm.
And we are working with retailers on the products that we have listed to get a final count for 2020 as to sales over 2019, and then we can compare those to see if there was a sales increase with the tagged products in store. So.
Great. And I think that's so important. And we're in an environment where it's tough to predict and understand year over year numbers. But I think if we can see those kind of proof, then it really is testament. And it's a huge effort. I mean, I can relate to the job of putting all of that POS up and going from one end of the province to the other. There are a lot of stores and a lot of shelves and a lot of products to cover, so it is a big job. And I think it's great when we see the signage and the awareness around the stores. So I'm curious, in your perspective, do you think that we'll see this trend? I mean, as we've come through COVID, we see more people, interested in where their food comes from. And obviously this program addresses that head on. Do you think that's going to increase after people are moving around a little bit again?
Well, even in the infancy of this program pre-COVID, we designed this program because Nova Scotians have told us we want to buy local in grocery stores, but it's very difficult to find, was their statement. So going forward, I think that's still going to hold true. I knew it did. The awareness and the local food security has increased over the last year. So I can see more shoppers being aware of where their food comes from, but also supporting their neighbors, supporting the farmers down the street, supporting their neighbors that are producing a value-added product. I can see that in all aspects, not only food, but across the board in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
We like to take care of each other, and that has been shown this past year with how we've acted. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Interesting. And we do have another question for you about, will the items in store still be tagged as Taste of Nova Scotia and then others as Get Your Hands on Nova Scotia, or is the new program going to replace and be throughout?
So as I mentioned, we are still continuing a partnership with Taste. So there has to be some value added for being a Taste member, but products in stores on the shelves will be tagged with Get Your Hands on Nova Scotia. The way we're going to work with Taste of Nova Scotia is work with the retailers on individual shelf space for Taste of Nova Scotia products, highlighting those ones, as well as doing different, Taste will work on their event side of things and work with their members on that way. And then we'll work on supporting the whole industry throughout the stores, labeling everything. So.
Okay, great. Well, we look forward to seeing the next chapter in this, because it's exciting to see it on the shelf, and appreciate all the work that you're doing. And another question popped in. They're lining up for you now, Patrick.
That's okay.
I think it's the
hot
tie.
topic.
I think it's because you win the best dress. You get the most questions. What is the process to get your hands on Nova Scotia on your product? What process do producers or processors need to go through to use the logo and that kind of thing?
Certainly. So as we're changing the brand here itself, we are very interested in any inquiries that of businesses and companies that want to put it on their packaging. I've had some cider companies already reach out to me on that aspect. So certainly, I think my contact will be shared with everybody on the call. So feel free to email myself, and we can work with you on getting the proper documentation and the proper sized brand that you can put on, and we certainly welcome that on any producer that wants to put our brand on their products.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll have a flood of calls.
That's
So,
okay.
so thank you very much, Patrick,
Thank
and appreciate all those insights. So we have one question that's still here, which I've been saving to kind of, because I think it's a nice thing that I think that everybody could have some input on it. And if anybody else has other questions, we do have a few minutes left, which we can address them. So the question is, when producers are thinking about creating a value-added product, what are some simple things they can do to think about meeting the market demand? And I'm going to add on to that some of these consumer trends. So I'd be happy to hear some input from each of you. Maybe we'll go in order of how we did things. So Michael, if you've got any insights on that one?
Well, it's certainly a question of the ages. In other words, where does your product live on retailer shelves? What hole does it fill? What gap does it, narrow? And listen, as we all know, there's a lot of products launched across this country onto grocery shelves. Grocers are more discerning now than ever. I mean, the supply chain in the COVID era is stressed at every node. So retailers are telling me they're being very careful about new products they list. You better have a good story and I think understand the customer journey to that story. E-commerce plays a big role. I think those are the, probably, things you should be thinking about pre-COVID, post-COVID, during COVID. That hasn't changed, but I do think that COVID has stressed the supply chain, and that's reverberated back in a more cautious approach, which I think has accentuated that need for a gap to be filled, something remarkable, something distinctive, and something different.
Okay, great. Troy, from your experience in Eden Valley, and you certainly do have some products that add some value in different ways. Do you have any insights?
I think it's just understanding, know your customer, know your base. You think of the disruptors or the different trends coming in your strategies and looking forward thinking, value added here is, what are your consumers and customers willing to pay for, and that connects to the trends everybody talked about today. So, and those are where you need to focus, and if you're not looking to add value, and, you become a commodity. So really it's about understanding your base and where the trends are, and looking out, 3 to 5 years on if you see that's going to be happening still, and really that's what it boils down to. Where are consumers and what are they willing to pay for? And that's where we try and focus our energy.
Mm-hmm. Great. Emily?
And maybe you want to be a value player, right?
Yep.
I mean, the spectrum is broad. Maybe you don't have a product that fills a need at the value added. Maybe you want to be an extreme value player. Lots of room in that too. We see the ascension of private labels. We see the ascension of value. So, there is a spectrum of choice.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Emily?
Those were two really good answers so far. But I'll go more from the product development side. So the question was value adding and meeting market demands. And I would say consider seasonality and availability of what you're value adding. So as much as we have a lot of great agricultural products here and can turn them into really great products, just consider that some of those and typically have a short season, or maybe they have a long season and that's what you want to go for, or is it freezable? And it's fine if it has a short season and you want to value add that, just consider you might not be selling it as a year-round product either.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Patrick?
For creating a product, I don't have too much insight on that, but once it's all done, feel free to reach out to groups such as Taste of Nova Scotia. They have a great quality kind of approval process that can help you along the way for creating a really good quality product that can be recognized, as well as working with us at the Buy Local team at the Department of Agriculture to get your product marketed and get brand awareness, and we can now also help a little bit getting connections to get into retail as well. So
Great.
And I mean, I'd add on to Patrick's presentation, which is fantastic. I think it's going to be greater than lesser for sure coming out of the COVID year. The connection consumers are making between their local economy and what they buy has never been greater. We saw that actually heading into the pandemic. It's even more accentuated now, whether that's trade negotiations, trade disagreements, or whether it's just, I know by shopping in the community I live in, I support my community. Consumers more than ever, 90% of consumers in a recent Retail Council of Canada survey, and this is again pre-COVID, said it was important to shop local. That doesn't mean small, doesn't mean Main Street. It means shop and buy where my neighbors are working or supplying the goods. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And remember to tell your story. Don't assume people know just because you know it so well. Tell your story and just do such a great, passionate job through all of the mediums that you can get your hands on, whether it's social media or public relations. There's so many ways. So just tell your story. I really want to say thank you to our panelists today. What great insights from all of you, and really covered a broad spectrum. So thank you to Michael and Troy and Emily and Patrick, much appreciated. And just to kind of sum up some of those trends in 1 minute, Michael really talked to us about that shift from bricks and mortar to e-commerce and also food service to retail and where all those things are happening in the market. So that was awesome. Troy shared some of the changes in demand and really how important it was for them to keep their customers in that in-stock position because people are going to stores where they find products. And also reinforced in his consumer insights about value and how, that has not gone away. It is still there very much for people. Sustainability comes up still, even through all the challenges of COVID. People are wanting to see us reduce food waste and tell that story. And then in Emily, adding all those real ingredients, making sure that you understand that, the consumer shift, the millennials shopping in grocery stores. So make sure if you have products that appeal to them, tell them, help them use your products, figure it out. The meal kits addresses that convenience issue that we know people want to really be able to take advantage in their household. And then Patrick, just that real deep dive into local and helping people understand how important it is to tell your story about where your food comes from and really take advantage of that. So some great trends, really appreciate all the insights from our panelists. I also want to say a big thank you again to our sponsors, FCC, Nova Scotia Farm Loan Board, and Perennia for presenting our series. And then also just to remind you that we have some upcoming sessions, so some great panelists upcoming. I know some of the people on the Women in Agriculture panel, I'm looking forward to that one. Climate change, our awards of excellence, and then also staying resilient in challenging times. So thank you very much to everybody for being here. We hope you can take in some of the upcoming sessions, and we look forward to seeing you out in the market, hopefully sometime really soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks again, Michael.